What is up, everybody? Jason Berman here. Nice little walking day. Little muggy out, probably gonna rain soon. But I wanted to go over, a lot of people talk about how I'm constantly complaining about the system and I'm not offering any solutions. And I don't think that should be the case. First we have to identify so many of these problems. The fact that we lack living in a constitutional republic as envisioned by our forefathers, and instead live in a national security slave state where authoritarianism is growing daily. So that's one of the things we have to identify. One of the other large things I think that we need to identify is that the eugenics agenda, the population control agenda, all that stuff is a propagated one that has no basis in reality. And my buddy came by yesterday, Pete, that I hadn't seen in a while. It's always good to get some human contact where I'm not supposed to be 6 feet away or have to wear a mask, and he's not afraid to shake my hand or give me a hug. We got to be little human beings together. And as basically they fire people in Otsego County, canned 59 people in an emergency meeting. That is the very, very beginning of all of these cuts, and really just the start of it. We started driving throughout the county. Now, he wanted to go out to his old lake house that they just sold after his father had passed, and just a gorgeous area. And as we drive through, there's just so much land in New York State, one of the most heavily populated states. Remember, the large amount of the consolidation of the population in New York is well below. It's like a minuscule amount of the physical land. And I mean, you guys could take a look. My park is beautiful. It's big. It's one of many parks here. Once you get outside of this town, which is actually the population epicenter of my county, you start finding hunks of land where families of 5 or more could live on 2 or 3 acres in communities very easily. So let's talk about a solution after all of this, right? The solution would be to put people to work, real work after this. Not just gut the middle class, not just gut cash industries, not reimagine education so that colleges never come back at full capacity and all the surrounding businesses suffer and die. Not that. But a real infrastructure build where you start hiring people like the Works Progress Administration did, and you build the maglev train infrastructure, okay? And now you still have your highway system, sure. You still have these small roads. And at the same time that these are being built in the areas that they are, you're building homes, but not developments, not corporate, suburban, city type deals. No. You're building actual homes where people can live and be sustainable. Even in that community, you could have a sustainable garden, right? There's so much land where they're not growing corn and they're not growing wheat and they're not doing all of these things with that land that you could institute something on a large chunk of land like you saw in the film Zeitgeist, like part of the Venus Project. See, I like that part of the film, where you basically build a greenhouse that is circular and rising. And that would be the tallest and biggest piece of structure there. Then the community could come in, they could work several hours, voluntarily. As they work, the more and more they work, the more and more of that community food would be theirs. Any type of surplus could then be sold to the local community or communities outside and put back in to that idea. I know it's crazy. So, a lot of people say, well, that's socialism, that's collectivism. No, it's actually voluntary. No one would have to take these jobs or build this infrastructure or be a part of these programs if they don't want to. What true socialism is, and what true on the dole, slave state actions is what we have now, where they want to institute a universal basic income and just put anybody out there who doesn't want that $24,000 behind everybody who doesn't work. And they'll say, but they'll give it to everybody, Jason. Everybody will. Sorry about that. Looks like we're about to hit a storm. Everything just kicked out. But let's talk about it again. They'll say, oh, but they're going to give that to everybody, Jason. So you won't be behind. We'll all be on equal playing field. No, they're not going to give it to everybody. They're going to give it to everybody that bows down to their universal vaccines. They're going to give it to everybody who bows down to basically authoritarian global government. That's who they'll give it to. To the predator class's minions. And those that don't want to, they'll be excluded and they'll be financially in the hole. And at some point, let's say they start with this UBI where it is a check or a direct deposit. At some point, it will become nothing more than a benefit card where all transactions are tracked, traced to a database, and it's only a digital currency. Okay, and that's the reality. That's what they did with food stamps, right? And they'll say, well, we had to do it that way because there was so much corruption and yada, yada, yada. The only way that we could make sure that it wasn't as corrupt is if we went to a full digital card. Right? Wow, really? Really? And they're not going to allow people to thrive anymore. They will tax those out of existence that have challenged the system. And how will they do that? Again, I'm waiting to see in New York State when bars are supposedly allowed to open, what they're going to do. They've already demonized money, right? They're demonizing handshakes. They're demonizing human contact. But now they've demonized money. They said, oh, well, that coronavirus, it can live on cash. And I expect for it to go something like this. Maybe I'm going to be wrong. Well, you know, most people go in there, they go in there with a $20 bill. They hand it to the bartender. The bartender then gives them change. They then take that money and they spend that change. The bartender then reaches in, they get that change, they give it to somebody else, and so on and so forth. Within an hour's time, no matter how socially distanced everybody is in the bar, they'll all have touched that money, and if it's infected, well, they could get coronavirus. Despite the fact that the facts aren't the facts, according to Cuomo, if you watched my video yesterday, and they're now saying, no, it's not really surfaces that are spreading the virus. So all that incessant hand washing and sanitizing and spraying down counters constantly and breathing in chemicals looks like it didn't help. No, it's airborne. It's airborne. So now that it's airborne, wear those masks. Wear those masks everywhere. Mask up. And we played some of those commercials. They're so Orwellian. So Orwellian. So, you know, aside from those big solutions that I offered in the beginning, right? To, you know, demand that this hoax of overpopulation, especially in our country, be propagated, to push back, to say, listen, if we're going to give handouts, let's give us some infrastructure. Let's give us some land. Let's give us some home we'll work for, that we can build communities with. Not a free check for nothing. And it's not even for citizens in some of these cases. They're actually saying that it's for residents. So anybody would get it. I mean, come on. COVID-1984 continues to unravel before our eyes, and the economic impacts in this country and globally have yet to be seen. Again, when I read that, what are we going to do when 7,000 college kids come back? But then they say that nobody can be at capacity ever again, possibly. What? So you think that you can keep teenagers and 20-somethings away from each other? Does that mean that I'm not, you know, if I pick up a girl at a bar, number one, we're certainly not going to hook up at the bar because we can't be that close to each other. We're going to stay 6 feet apart until we get to my house? Yeah, that's how things are done. That's ridiculous. So, guys, that's why we're getting out of New York State. We're going to see what other states have to offer. But there would be real solutions here if we didn't live in a country where they're openly running a racist, senile old man who can barely speak and is on video manhandling children again and again and again and again. And you expecting to be like, oh yeah, we'll totally vote for that guy. They don't have any respect for you. So thumbs it up, subscribe, share. Make sure that you are a member of the Burmish Brigade. If you can support me, $5, $10, $15, it means the world to me. Go check out the GoFundMe. We're probably going to do an exclusive over on Rockfin today, but what I've been doing is reposting the MK Ultra stuff I did, that series over at Rockfin, just to try to get a broader audience over there. So I want to say I love you guys, and I will see you all on the flip side.